You should have an eye on this watch brand. This is Sphaera. Sphaera is a watch brand out of Austria. There aren't many watch brands here in Austria that make real watches. What do I mean with real watches? Well, I don't mean just buying a watch and putting your logo on it. I mean really crafting a watch. And that's totally fine if you use a third-party movement, but it has to be unique to you, not just buying the whole piece and selling it with a high margin. There has to be craftsmanship involved, and there aren't many of these brands. Some of you might know Habring. Habring is a watch brand that sits, well, just a couple of kilometers away from where the Hirsch headquarters is, where I am sat right now. And I've done a video on another Austrian watch brand, Karlsruhe & Söhne. But this time, we're going to look at Sphaera watches, a very, very young brand that was founded in 2023. They started off with a desk diver, something we all know very well if you've been following this journey along. I have been wearing my Submariner for quite some time and it never saw the water. When they started in 2023, they had a mission, and the mission was to create a very cool watch that is kind of unique in their own space, and they had an interesting approach. So fast forward to 2024, the brand consists of 3 people: Michael, Daniel, and Martin. And together these 3 are pooling their skills to create cool watches. And I have the newest 2 releases, the Epoch Classic and the Epoch Sport. These 2 watches might seem similar, but in fact, they are very different from each other. So let's dive into the specs first. Both watches feature a Swiss-made automatic movement with 40 hours of power reserve. Both watches are time only with no date, and both watches have a very distinct Sphaera-like case design. The watches are made out of stainless steel, and depending on what watch you pick, there are some particularities. Both watches have a case diameter of 40.5 millimeters, a lug-to-lug of 48 millimeters, and a lug width of 20 millimeters. And this is fantastic. I love when brands do this, keeping those strap geeks in mind. There is one difference though. Both watches do not feature the same thickness. The Epoch Classic has a thickness of 12.5 millimeters. That's due to the domed sapphire crystal. And the Epoch Sport has a thickness of 12 millimeters and doesn't feature a domed sapphire crystal. It's flat, which I prefer. They're also a little bit different in terms of their style, and the finishes have been used on both watches. Whereas the Epoch Classic is sandblasted and features screws on the bezel that will rust over time. This is a special treatment that Sphaera uses to create this aging of the screws. And the Epoch Classic also has these bronze-colored hands and this very rough textured sandwich dial, which I do appreciate. And there are no crown guards on the case, but there is a screw down crown, and both watches have a water resistancy of 200 meters. The Epoch Classic is more of a, I wouldn't call it vintage inspired, but it has this character. It ages over time with the aging screws and the sandblasted case, and it comes on this waxed calf leather strap. And additionally, both watches come with an additional NATO strap. However, my personal favorite is the Epoch Sport. The monochromatic look is just something that I appreciate more because it allows me to try out different kinds of straps and match the watch to my personal style, like I'm doing today with this black sweater. What I like about this watch and what is different compared to the Epoch Classic is that this Epoch Sport case is bead blasted. So it's a bit different than the sandblasting. It's a bit more, I call it matte. It's more refined, but it has this nice shine. The bezel is brushed and the screws are not aged, which I like as well because it gives the watch a more simple look. This is probably going to be the more popular, more easy, everyday kind of watch to wear because a simple colorway. compared to the Epoch Classic. There's a different side that I appreciate about the Epoch Sport, that the 12 millimeters feel way thinner. The watch is flat due to the flat sapphire crystal. This is something that I look for in watches. I don't personally look for big watches or thick watches. I want them to slide under the cuff easily. This will work with the Epoch Sport. The Epoch Sport also features a sandwich dial. Compared to the dial of the Epoch Classic, this doesn't have texture. It has more of a matte kind of finish on it. They call it velvet black. It's a very simple matte black dial, and you have the Superluminova for the indices and the hands as well, which is quite nice. And I do appreciate sandwich dials. As an Austrian family company, it is fantastic for us to support other Austrian businesses, other Austrian companies, especially ones that are in our industry. And therefore you will see that on the Epoch Sport, there is a Hirsch-Arne watch strap. We collaborated with Sphaera on this particular piece, and we're very happy that Sphaera is using our watch straps on their watches. As this industry within Austria is quite small, it's always great to connect and to help each other out. Potentially, this is also why I prefer the Sport over the Classic, but overall, I do appreciate the finishing. What you will notice if you put one of these watches into your hands is the weight of them. It feels like they are made out of white gold, but in fact, it's just steel. And this steel has to be super condensed that it's that heavy. And that's something I like. It gives you the feeling that there's a watch on your wrist compared to other watches. I like that they have their own unique style of finishing the watches. This bead blasting is very, very cool. The matte finish is very nicely done. And overall, it's just their own design. And this is something that you rarely see within the watch industry right now, because a lot of watch brands are copying each other or bringing back vintage designs, which is fine. But seeing something unique and a new finish that is being created, this is something that is truly appreciated. And if it's an Austrian brand, well then that's something I have to appreciate even more. I will not leave you without trying out a different strap on this Epoch Classic. I put on the new Nayet rubber strap, and let me just tell you, it feels fantastic. The white matches the monochromatic look of the watch perfectly, and it just makes the watch so much more sporty that I might even consider taking this watch for a swim. I might take this on my vacation in summer and go for a swim with it. So that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Please do leave comments down below. How do you feel about Sphaera? Do let me know. It will be very interesting. If you want to watch 2 other videos on microbrands, these are the 2 for you to pick. Please don't forget to subscribe, and as always, if you feel like it, put a thumbs up. See you in the next one. Bye-bye.